Thank you. Okay, today is November 24th. It's 5 p.m. It's the Policy Advisory Committee. We'll start with attendance, go around the room and say who's here. Rob, we will start with you.
Hi, Rob Mezzanotte, Assistant Superintendent.
Andrew Hennius, Attorney for the District.
Kenny Dubas, Superintendent.
Erin Earl, School Committee Chair.
Jennifer Lima, School Committee Member.
Katie Zimmerman, Parent.
Laura Bateman, parent.
Abby Ryan, student.
Mia Thompson, Teacher and Parent.
Jason Diego, Parent.
Chas Paseko, IT Supervisor.
Okay, awesome. Citizens' comments, and your timing is impeccable. So.
Chas, do you want to move?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Stacy Weinstein. I live at 737 Old Baptist Road, and my daughter goes to Davisville Middle School. I just wanted to comment on the internet access on the Chromebooks. It's come to my attention that students can get on pretty much any site that they want to, including social media sites, including Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, all of those things. I believe that it cannot be hard to block them from your end, and I'm just a little concerned that they're not already blocked. I have downloaded the GoGuardian site, and I can only block stuff. Apparently, the blocks that I put on are disregarded during school hours. So essentially, I'm trying to do my best to protect my daughter from what I think are dangerous and harmful sites for a 13-year-old that she should not have access to. And basically, the school is, giving her full access to those things while I'm not there. I know that the teachers have control over blocking things like during their classes, but I think that that's unfair to put on teachers when they're trying to teach the students. And I think it creates inequities in just, the parents that are, even if I could block everything, not every parent is going to have time or the ability. My daughter's been in the school system since forever, so she's had a computer since the 3rd grade, and I just found out about the fact that she can go onto these sites. And I think it's pretty disappointing, and, like I said, I've blocked all the things on my computers that I own, on her phone and all of that stuff, and the fact that she can just go into school and go on that is pretty concerning to me. I think it's inappropriate that, I think the national level, our government on the national level doesn't do enough to protect our kids. I think the social media companies don't do enough to protect our kids in the online spaces, and I think that the school system can do a better job on their computers, protecting our kids. And furthermore, I think it opens up to liability. God forbid, something happens to a student and, comes back that they were accessing those sites through a school computer. I think that can be extremely dangerous and opens you guys up to a lot of liability. I think it just makes a lot of sense to, block sites that are not appropriate for kids, underage kids. It's pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And next is the approval. We have to approve last month's meeting minutes and the minutes from the meeting before that, because I forgot to do it at the last minute. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the 9/22 meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the 10/27 meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you. So we have the same policies to go through in the first group as we did the last time. First, I think we had some good discussions, and then we left with some direction for some modifications to come back and to be reviewed. Ken, do you have a preference which one we dive into first?
I know.
Okay. Do you want to do the tech ones because Chaz is here?
Yeah, I would just go
Okay.
do those while he's here in order.
waiting. So there was one that we did not have on our agenda the last time, which was the 2A, the internet filtering, which I've added this time so that we can have the discussion around. Chaz, do you have a preference which order we go in with these?
No, I think we can just hit it top to bottom.
Okay,
I think it's fine.
all right,
I
so
think,
you wanna start with the responsible use of tech?
Yeah,
I think it's in the
Okay.
folder that, it's not the policies and process folder?
just, oh,
Is that the one that, I think?
Yeah,
that-
so if anyone's looking for it, we're in the policy advisory main folder,
Yeah,
then
this is
policies in
that's what we-
progress, and then internet/technology.
yep, thank you,
And then-
sorry, I was trying to get to the correct one, so I know,
Yeah, we're just asking, because Chaz and I worked on these, and we just wanted to make sure we have the right one.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
most recently updated, and that's in there.
Yeah, I put it in the folder, so
Yep.
it should be.
yep, I have it. I was
the one
trying,
that's in the
honestly,
folder.
I was trying to remember the name of the folder to get back to it.
It's a
Cool.
valid question.
Yep,
So,
James, you good?
so for the responsible use of tech, we did add, so if we, not too many edits on this one since the last conversation, but under the guidelines section, item 12 is still there, basically letting parents know in order to use certain tools, we have to sign an agreement essentially with, an end user license agreement, still there, but 13 that we did add, any email sent or received on the district email may be considered public documents under Rhode Island Access to Public Records Act. That we did add, that came up last time to make sure that that was very clear and evident. This is the case, whether you're, just to make sure you're aware and you're called to it, since everybody, student, parent, and staff sees this policy in some capacity. I did mention, I believe to you, Jen, about the merging two, but I'm gonna actually hold that comment until we get to the one that would be referenced, because I might need, I'll lean on Andrew a little bit too on
okay,
on some points on that. But that was the only, besides the potential consolidation, that was the only additional change that we really needed to make on that one,
So
based on the last.
for this
feedback.
one, it looks like you added on the top two to clarify that this one was for students and staff, right, or did we add that the last one?
Oh,
I can't
yes,
remember.
because
Okay.
we,
Yeah, the title
Yes.
changed
Yep, the
for our
title
conversation.
changed.
yes, thank you.
And I had a question,
Mhm.
so, under policy statement, it says, any person that accesses digital information utilizing the networking infrastructure of the NKSD. I just wanna clarify, that's for guest access or for the NKSD logon?
In person.
This is for student and staff.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the definition of
It's
user?
a definition of a user, yeah.
yeah, under definition of user.
That would be literally anybody. So
That's
that-
why I had the question, cause cause that's anybody more than just student or staff.
Yeah, so, hence why it is written that way, of utilizing our networking infrastructure or assigned an electronic device by us, because there's a chance you would be on one of our pieces of equipment, but not on our network, you'd still be held to the same rule.
I think what Jen's clarifying is, so this policy specifically is for students and staff, but then we're using user more generally, and so is there anything in this policy that's for guests, is what I'm hearing, did I translate right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what Jen's asking.
I gotcha. So, in general, that leads, I guess maybe I'm just gonna have to jump to what I was planning on holding, but maybe it'll make a little more sense. Our logon usage policy, the IJNDB 3, looking through those, we were kind of, Rob and I were talking, honestly, they really can coexist, or be merged into one, realistically. I think we can have that item exist underneath the guidelines, as a separate section, potentially under unauthorized use before supporting regulations of responsible use of tech, because they are essentially providing the same set of guidelines. One's just a little more specific, but it's basically the same stuff. It's by basically saying you're using our technology or our network, you have to abide by certain rules. And then we have a logon usage one, that basically says, hey, you're on our network, you have to abide by these certain rules. They're the same, for the most part. Or I should say, they're basically just cross-referencing each other realistically. I don't think they need to be separate. Typically, if we want people to have, if we're expecting a responsible use of technology on our network, that should be pretty blanket across everybody. And then we would just change, if we did merge them, we would change our notifications when you hop onto like our guest network. We would just cut out the logon usage policy and just reference responsible use of tech. So that, honestly, we may have written that line or that line may have been written that way with that expectation, and then I forgot to mention that as we were going through this. I'm trying to not jump too many places, but does that make sense? Like, I just think I think it makes sense to have them in one
So,
spot.
no, it didn't make sense before, but if Chaz merges them, then it will make sense, the
Yeah.
user piece.
Yeah,
Is
I
what I'm
think
hearing.
I had thought
Yes.
that we were going to merge some of them based on the conversation that we had at the last meeting.
Yeah, the logon usage one, quite honestly, I'll pull it up here. Actually, let me pull up.
I think too, if we wanna move these forward, which I don't know if that's your intent today,
I think it
we
was.
gotta just start copying and pasting, right? Like,
Mhm.
whatever you wanna pull over, we should pull over,
We-
so that the committee sees like it all together, if that makes sense.
Mhm. The logon usage one, quite honestly, with the edits that we're planning on making to that uniquely, quite literally can
You can
be
just
just
drop it
copy
in.
pasted as
Yeah.
a separate section underneath responsible use of tech. So we could basically take the policy section of logon usage and copy it as a section, or paste it as a section. I'm thinking under unauthorized use and the responsible use of tech, but before supporting regulations. It can just exist there. And that way it's all in one policy. The changes aren't gonna be needing to be referenced in two different places going forward. I'm even okay doing that if that makes sense to see what I'm meaning.
So just the 1, 2, 3, 4, and the by using, or the actual blurb under the policy language also?
Which one are you referring to?
I'm looking in the logon usage.
Pretty much everything post policy,
Okay.
including pretty much post the word policy up until NKSD electronic devices and networks. Because I guess we could include the little piece at the end, but that's more of a, that's just a blurb of the message that we put on our guest network that says you're agreeing to these. I actually don't know if that needs to be in the policy, but we could always leave that. There's no real, I think for cleanliness, we can leave it out, to be completely honest. It's just a generic warning message, but we could always wanna leave that open to what we wanna change going forward. I don't think it needs to be in a policy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And where would this go in responsible use of tech?
I'm thinking, as a section between unauthorized use after point G, as a separate section, and before supporting regulations.
Right here. Yeah, you got it.
And then basically call that logon usage.
Or give it a different header.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do we wanna give it the header of logon usage, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Jen,
think
where are you typing?
I'm not typing in the right spot.
Here, hold on. I know where you're typing, but don't type there. Log on.
You're in the right
What's that?
spot.
Log on, have a dash, log dash on, just log on.
Logon, one word.
And then what was the other word?
Usage.
Okay. So that's there now. Does this policy reference that other one at all? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's referencing itself,
yeah, so you'll find that and change it.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, is that we can easily then just take any reference to IJN DB3 and essentially cut that reference, because it's referencing itself. Yep.
While Jen's doing that, do other people have questions, comments, thoughts on this policy?
I had a question on, let me find it here, under the guidelines piece of the IJNDB number 5. It reads, computer users are responsible to protect passwords by not showing them, posting them in conspicuous places, or making them obvious. The IT department will determine appropriate password change procedures and frequencies. I don't know if this is still policy at Forest Park, but in third grade, the students had their passwords written on the little tag on the side of their computer, and I don't know if this is at other schools as well. And they're obviously really young, but I pointed it out to one of my kids, and they were like, they told us to, because I was like, you shouldn't tell anybody your password. So that same password is then their code, or the last 4 digits are their code for lunch, and then their code in middle school as well. And I'm assuming that carries into high school. So in terms of like protecting passwords, I'd be surprised if they didn't know each other's passwords like already, and I don't know how the policy and the practice can be reconciled throughout their career. This is like kind of a bigger question than just the policy,
Yeah, so
but it made me think of it.
that's a very fair point, for sure.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, there's, if people are still having, students do that, I should,
Okay.
I can help them find better ways, I can help them find
I
better
think
ways, so
we
that's
should, I think
definitely
we should
bad
come up with a
practice.
way, because kids do forget their passwords
Yeah.
at that
Yeah,
level.
they do,
So I can
yeah.
understand why it's written down
I
somewhere, but
forget
we also have to
passwords at
protect
my
it, but we also have to think of how we manage that in a classroom.
Yeah.
With trying to manage that and with instruction and kids forgetting passwords and where those codes are and what's my lunch code.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be somewhere where it is written down for them to refer to, but I can understand not in the open, but I think we're gonna have to come
So
up
that's
with something.
procedure,
I
do we
actually
need
think
to
we-
change anything in policy?
It may
No,
not
I think it's
change
just, I
here.
think she's just
Oh,
referencing.
no,
the
it's very
stuff, so
valid, I
we
just
can-
wasn't
appreciate
sure if we
that.
wanted to change or
Just make
reference
sure.
anything
No.
different in here.
I wouldn't.
You may not need to change anything.
Yeah,
here.
it's more of a,
Okay.
But I appreciate that,
Noted.
that's good to know.
noted.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Alright, so that one doesn't need to be changed here, but is a
The
valid point.
practice should
Yeah.
change, yeah.
So can,
If you don't mind too, I'm gonna update that formatting on that header a little bit, just
Please.
to match.
I was trying to put page
Oh,
numbers.
I do not have edit access, I lied, I cannot do that.
Oh, you don't have access to this?
You don't have access?
I can view it, but I don't have edit.
Here.
Actually, I got
And I
it.
think actually every time that we met, I think you just typed it up.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right,
it
'cause I
never
was
became a
probably
problem.
edits, yeah.
I just made you an editor.
Okay, cool. Oh, yep, there we go, thank you.
I would like to note the irony of the
Yeah.
director of
Yes,
technology.
seriously.
Supervisor not having access to the policy.
Did other folks have thoughts or questions? One thing that I was curious about as I was rereading it is it references parents and guardians giving, signing things on behalf of their children, but then we do have a population of students that are over 18, and so I didn't know if that changes once a student is of age, like if I sign for my child in September because they were 17, and then Little Nugget turns 18 in April, and then they do something wacky in May, like where does that land in the world?
Yeah, so my personal thinking is still, if you're here as a student, we have to be able to sign on your behalf. In the same way that if you're in a college and there's a tool that you're expected to use, and if the school essentially gets a large purchase for like that many students or whatever, they're essentially signing on the behalf of that individual to basically get that license and use it. So whether they're turning 18 while they're here or not, to me, we still, even then, unless that line, if there's a detail of that line we can change maybe.
I'd more
the-
care if Andrew cares. Andrew,
Yeah.
do you care? No, I'm serious, like, I hear you,
No.
Chaz.
I mean, we
But-
don't, when kids turn
Yeah.
18,
Yeah.
in the middle of their
It's
senior
fine.
Yep,
year,
it's fine.
we usually don't have them
Okay.
go back and
Yep.
sign
But if,
them.
and if they're 18 before their senior year, we still don't care?
Technically, they're still covered. It gets into a tax issue, actually, believe it or not. If they're still being claimed, like for FERPA, if you're still being claimed on your parents' taxes at age 18, parents still have the authority to access the records. I'm not sure on the signing
Yeah.
piece, though, to tell you the truth. Signing might be
I
different.
don't think, yeah.
Yeah, signing might be different.
As somebody who works with a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds in my work, I feel like it does change, so maybe we should just double check on that.
I can check that, yep.
And I know that's such a sub thing, but I always kind of keep it in my mind.
Yep.
All of
I'll
our
check
other
that with Chaz.
policies have a blurb that says like once our students turn 18.
Some of them do, yeah.
Yeah, they, like,
Yeah, just didn't know
it's
if this
parent,
one was
guardian,
different.
or adult student.
Yeah. Okay, so
check
Andrew will
that.
check, and
Yeah.
then that's an easy fix, like if we need to just switch that,
Mm.
I'll think about it.
Erin, you had a note about,
Yeah, I was curious, it referenced a fine, and then my brain went to, I wonder if that fine is still
Oh.
$50, and then I was curious where that came
So
from.
I changed that this morning as I was looking at this because I suspect very heavily that that $50 is no longer valid. But I didn't I didn't research just to see what it was, so I just put sort of that general statute in there. But I'm happy to track it down if you want.
Where was the?
I think I had a comment in there just referring to you may be liable for civil or criminal prosecution. That way it doesn't tie you to any
Yeah, I think
particular
that
fine or
is
anything
better
like
than
that.
having it be super specific.
Yeah,
So you already made that change or no?
I put it in the comments.
I'm not seeing it at all.
I'm not
Hold on.
seeing
I do think something was weird happening though when we were editing.
Yeah,
So
there were
now I
like
don't even see the
19
$50
of
thing.
the same comment, yeah.
Yeah, because it went in the header or the footer or
Footer,
something.
yeah.
Did you see the comments, Jen?
It was there and.
And now it's not.
then it
But
was
where's the
gone.
actual language? Let's see.
I gotta find it now.
Did we delete it?
To have violated this section may be subject to criminal or civil prosecution,
Yep,
right?
that's what I had added or suggested.
Okay, I think it didn't get, I'm gonna.
Just change
What
the color.
section
I gotta find where,
Are we adding that to where that says any activity which may be in violation, is that where it goes?
There was something that said like,
yeah, it was a
if you did
$50
something
fine.
bad, you get a $50 fine.
I don't
I
see
want-
the
I think that's weird.
$50
That, yeah, and it's
fine.
gone now.
But is that where it lived, any activity which may be in violation?
Yeah, I was suggesting getting rid of the reference specifically to a $50 fine and just putting in there any violation of this may result in criminal or civil prosecution. So I had the same question, whether it's even $50 anymore, I have no idea.
Okay. Where it says, that we may monitor staff messages, is that also student or is it just staff?
Ooh,
So I made that comment and then lower in that paragraph, it talks about students, but I didn't know, like you can see it, like it's, so it's talking about staff and then it starts talking about students like lower in that paragraph, but I didn't know if we wanted that first sentence to be more inclusive of the,
But where they talk about the students, they talk about the internet use, not actually email. Oh, email monitoring of students' accounts may occur, okay, so that does cover it.
it
So-
said it later, I was adding comments chronologically and then I was like, I don't know.
there's and this may be more of the kind of techie side of my brain that is coming into play here, but in general, the use of like staff versus student, I lean more towards user is the right one, because if you're a user on our network, you are a user on our network, unless there's something that's specifically applying to like staff or student uniquely. In this case, that is too, they're essentially addressing them separately, even though the rules are mostly crossover, they're slightly different.
So change it to user? I heard change it to user.
Sorry, that was more like in general across policies, not this in this particular case. Yeah, in general, if I say it, I often will say the word user, because that's what I'm meaning.
Did anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns about this one? Which is now the responsible use of tech, and we pulled the login. What was the login policy is now,
So do we need to change because the header says students and staff? Do we now want to say, because it covers everyone? That header changes now.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't know if I'm not sure.
I don't think you need anything, it just says use of technology resources and institutional policies,
Yeah,
and then
take that right
underneath, it should say something about, for users, it should say staff, students, and guests.
That's for all use of technology.
Like I would define what user
Yep.
is, in that, it's not right now though, so we need to fix it, where I just highlighted it. Any person, and then person's defined as, I don't know if those are the three categories.
Actually, it
Like
says
staff,
this
student.
policy is applicable.
Staff, student, and guests.
It's actually, you'd have to change this, because it says this policy is applicable to departments, employees, students, consultants, or other authorized individuals utilizing the technology resources.
Well, if someone's on the guest and they're acknowledging, yes, I agree, I'm gonna do this, that is
They're an
an
authorized
authorized
user?
use, yeah. So I think at least defining user correctly, changing it from any person, maybe staff, student, in person? Staff, student, maybe guest actually is a better word. Don't like the word guest.
so someone will judge this to make sure that it all, like, no, like, from like my perspective of what's in the policy, I don't care, so like, before it gets to the school committee, someone will just make sure the language is inclusive based on the change that we're making to combine it, if the committee feels like that's the right choice.
Mhm.
I also would like to note, it still says NKSD 83 times, so if, Jen, if you have, we should delete some of those, that's insane.
Yep, I see.
So I guess then basically what I'm hearing is everybody's okay with the spirit of the policy and the overall content of the policy, it just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And if everybody's okay with that, once we go through the other three, just to make sure they're all in line, we could, in theory, vote to move this forward, yes? Everybody agree with that?
Pending, like,
Pending,
judging.
yes, yeah. Okay,
What is a word?
okay, so we'll.
Did anybody else, is everyone good?
Everybody looked like they made positive eye contact. Okay, so we'll pause on this one and we'll move on to, that was IJNB responsible use. So the next one is the IJNB 2, which is the SIPA one.
SIPA, yep. So, this is another one, so this actually, the one for SIPA is pretty much, we have to have this,
Mhm.
Whether we like it or not, this has to be here. However, when we're looking at, so we made a couple of changes here. For example, we added an example early on in the philosophy here. So now reading, it is the policy of the North Kingstown School Department to comply with all applicable federal and state laws, such as RIGL 1621-6, internet filtering and SIPA. To give an example of, here's the spirit of what we're essentially filtering and monitoring. And again, below, under the statement where we wanted to call out, because essentially there was a seemingly contradiction last time where it said we were monitoring, not monitoring, filtering, not filtering. Essentially disclaiming in any situation that's not at least explicitly called out by the responsible use of tech policy, we don't monitor. But if the responsible use of tech policy would, indicate we have to monitor something based on what's written in there, we can do so. And besides that, that's pretty much that policy, because we can't really change it too much, because SIPA is SIPA. It's what it is. However, and this is again, maybe Andrew, you may have a comment on this. We have another policy that came up, the internet filtering one, and the internet filtering policy, personally, I think this is another situation where we can move the two together. Because when I look through SIPA again, SIPA essentially says you need to have a policy that states certain things. We have a policy that states those things. And then SIPA also says you also have to have a policy that declares what you're going to do in certain cases of internet filtering. And we do. It's the internet filtering policy. So SIPA essentially says you have to have a policy that says A and B. What we did as a district at some point was made one policy for A, one policy for B. Does that make sense? So like
Yes.
one policy that just says this is SIPA, one policy that says this is filtering. If you have any opinion as well, Andrew, please correct me, but I've looked through SIPA a few times and it seems to indicate these two are saying the same.
It's relatively general, yeah.
As long as
it's
there's
been-
not
yeah.
a law that says you have to have a standalone policy, I am team combine, always.
It just says you have to have a policy around internet filtering.
Great.
Yep.
Basically,
Smush
that's
them
it.
Yeah,
together.
there'd be no prohibition to merging them, as long as you can merge them correctly. Yep.
So
So
the 2A was the one that we didn't have on the agenda
Correct.
the last time, so that was the one that we couldn't talk about. And I actually, this is the one that kind of touches on what the citizens' comment was on, so I kind of wanted to,
Alright, so just to clarify, with the SIPA one as is right now, is there anything that we need to change on it? Are we good as a committee with that one? Because I hear what Chaz is saying is that we're gonna look at the other one and we can merge it into this one, but I just wanna make sure we're good, like on this one.
I think this one is like the federal law.
Yeah, I made
pretty
one
much,
weird
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
We referenced something called E-rate, which I did not know what E-rate was, so then I Googled what E-rate was,
Mhm.
and I wasn't sure, and it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that it's a, like, way that we pay for stuff in a cheaper way, cause we're like a K-12 education system. But I didn't know if that was like common knowledge to people or if we should define it.
It's, we could define it,
Or if
maybe it's
anybody's
because I live in
curious.
it, but E-rate is E-rate. I'm not sure what else to, we could find it, no, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, I totally understand.
Quite a definition.
It's a school and library program, right?
Yes.
Like the way it's written on the internet in some places is the school and libraries parentheses E-rate program. Is that what we have written?
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay, I think I see what you're saying. Calling it just, oh, actually, you know, now that you're bringing that up, that is not, I see what you're saying, it shouldn't just be called through E-rate,
Yeah.
through the E-rate
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
I'm following you now.
Okay.
I thought I was getting a little more specific.
No, don't, yeah, I meant just like I didn't know that was a program, so
Fair.
I just just saying it a little differently, like, help people if they care,
So,
and no one will care.
So we wanna add a definition to that.
It's not even a definition, you could
It's
just
not,
write it
but
like
there's a
this.
description of it
Here,
on the
I'll show you
FCC
how they-
website. That might be helpful, I'm just reading it now.
because yes, we do leverage E-rate, so we absolutely have to have this. That's where the requirement is.
Yeah.
And if we didn't leverage E-rate, we should, so we should have this anyway, so we can.
No, yeah, okay, let me see. You could probably just write. Alright, let's move on, I'll put a comment in of what
I'm gonna
might
send
help.
you guys an email right now.
That's a good point though, for sure.
I just always look for jargon, like, that civilians might not know, and that was one that the civilian did not know.
Fair.
Okay, so going to the Super 2, which I lost, the internet filtering, which is the IJA and the 2A, what do I call it, 2A? So this is the one that defines what we filter, right, Chaz?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, this is established by SIPA. Essentially, we at the very least have to do our best to abide by what it claims we need to filter. And if we go beyond what it claims to filter, we essentially have to have a very good reason in case E-rate, or USAC is the group that oversees the E-rate program, in case USAC ever audited us and wanted to know why, because that could jeopardize our funding.
Which one are we in, I'm sorry?
IJNDB2A, internet filtering. So, my first question is
Oh, right at the bottom.
is that correct that students can get onto social media and sites like that in school?
Correct.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Is there a reason we don't block that?
Yes, at certain levels, especially at certain levels, there is an educational value to social media.
Okay.
In terms of, say, if anyone's looking in the, to get into like graphical arts or digital arts, social media is where digital marketing essentially exists today.
Okay.
Same would go for, if I'm thinking video production or comm classes. Social media is where that is. The other reason is the definition of social media is rather broad. By definition, YouTube is a social media platform, but I would be very careful about ever blocking YouTube because that can be scary. You know, there's a lot of value, educational value to YouTube as well. So it just becomes where we, at least my personal measure is, I don't want to hammer the solution when we need to have a tender hand on some of them. And the way that we have to block in order for it to be sustainable is we have to block things basically by labels. And because if not, playing the game of whack-a-mole, to be quite honest, is an infinite endeavor. Unless, as we follow here through internet filtering policy right now, there's a direct harm to a child, and again, that gets its own,
Right.
what defines harm and who defines harm, but that's essentially my mode of thought when I'm looking through filtering.
So, and I'm not lobbying either way, so,
Mhm.
but I'm just throwing this out there. So like, Facebook requires you to be, 14 to have an account? Or you, like, there's a certain age
Yeah.
group, so like, at the elementary school level, like, why would that not be blocked? Or even at the middle school level?
So if Facebook maybe, but I don't know if every social media platform
I
has
think
that same rule.
Instagram does too, like,
Wait, they're same parent company,
Yeah.
so that would make
Yeah.
sense. But like, but YouTube doesn't, for
Right.
example. And again, we're coming back. And honestly, YouTube a bit, especially with the social media
Yeah.
conversation, YouTube is kind of the one that holds the conversation really hostage because there's others like Reddit which have very bad value and very good value,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So what if we flip it though? So to that parent's point, like
Mhm.
I completely hear you on the educational value. I use platforms to teach in my class that I teach and all that sort of stuff. But on the flip side, there's a lot of data and research about how like social media interactions and sites and different things have negative impacts on students. And so I'd be really curious, especially from like Rob and Ken and Chaz, on like what's that balance of you know, yes, we need Instagram for this one random class to look at this thing, but like is that more important than like the social harm that could come from allowing students free range access on those sites? You know, like
I think I would go back, and again, I'm not defending some of these social
Yep.
media sites. with
I'm asking like a
kids.
very philosophical
Right.
question. I'm not asking for a specific like
No, but
Yeah.
I think of the high school.
Yeah.
And I think of how YouTube is used at the high school level.
Yeah.
Right, they're using it for instruction. If you were to walk into a music classroom, and that's where I've seen it more, that's being used.
Yeah.
Right, to do that.
yes, it's
what
how
I'm
I
hearing-
teach the trombone in my
Yeah,
house.
and what I'm hearing from Chaz is that if we were to block Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or Reddit or whatever else there is, we then have to block something that's used with it that has an educational
That
purpose, right?
is true but isn't true, right, Chaz?
So essentially,
I
if we,
just-
if
that's
we
what-
block, there's
It'd
two.
be nice to do the social media block, but then you'd lose YouTube.
You would lose
But-
you'd also lose a lot of others,
Yeah.
and at least from the
But you could block Instagram, right?
So here's where, yes, so you can block individual ones. What we found specifically, if you block an individual one, first off, we have to then create a narrative as to why we've chosen this one is okay and not the other. And if it's just because this one can be used poorly, then we have to leverage that narrative to the other tools as well.
What if it creates a distraction to learning?
So if
And we're saying that certain social media sites create a distraction to learning, so that's why we're blocking certain sites. But there's
So-
other sites we're keeping open because they have an educational purpose that teachers and students are using.
yeah,
And
so
is that an option?
So again, that would be, at least from the sake of the internet filtering piece through SIPA, that's not, I don't believe it's clearly defined as, I don't think a distraction is clearly defined as a reason you can do it. So if we do that, we have to just be very, I don't know what the parameter is from USEC exactly on, because we've never been, or we haven't been audited by USEC in quite some time. And unfortunately, the last time we were, the ACLU was the reason why we were, because they were very upset that we over-filtered about 7-ish years ago. I'm trying to remember if anyone was here for that. And we had to peel that back because they were going to withhold that from us. We overwent, and I think it was social media, because at the time they found the reasoning, and I wish I could remember the reasoning, but it wasn't deemed equitable across all tools and all services. So that's where the kind of discussion comes in. What we do now is we do have a tool like GoGuardian where it does allow the teachers to be able to create those blocks and those filters in their own classroom if they deem fit. Because if the district blocks it, we have to block it for more broadly.
So
But
the
if it
way
keep-
of doing that is to use GoGuardian.
Correct.
And to put that out there so our teachers know that they can block those sites.
Mhm.
Can I,
Through
just
GoGuardian
add,
at that
as a teacher at the high school, could I just speak to that a little bit more directly? The problem with banning things like, Instagram, YouTube is clear, you've said that, but the problem with banning things like Instagram is that a lot of our CTE programs utilize Instagram in order to, and I know because I've seen a lot of you liking the posts from the music department, but, they use that as a method to, it's part of their CTE platform. I know the Fine Arts Department also has one for their Pathway program. So I have to tell you, as a teacher, I have less of an issue with social media and more of an issue with the video games, which I promptly squashed by using GoGuardian and a blocking tool. And I just learned how to do that this year because it was such a problem. But I will say that I would just urge a little bit of caution when starting to pick apart certain social media platforms like that, because even though I totally sympathize with this woman's situation at home, but in school, we really do use a lot of those platforms, and I would even go as far as saying contact the teachers and staff if you're looking into something like that to see what people are using and what they're doing with it, because I think you'd be surprised.
And I completely agree with what you're saying with Instagram, and know how that's being used at the high school level, the programs we see it, and that's being used as a tool.
Yeah.
I think we also need to think about each grade level, right, to what's appropriate and not appropriate, and, maybe there's something that we can do with using GoGuardian of, thinking about what social media sites are not good for kids to be accessing during the school day, and at each grade level, like putting those blocks in place. And then when children are at home, it's the responsibility of the parent and guardian to be supervising and watching their children at home and what they're using. I mean, that's their.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not advocating for blocking, but I am surprised that, like, if a parent has said, no, I do not want my child accessing this, that if that child is in 3rd grade, that they can come into the school and access Facebook or Instagram. That does surprise me. So that is, I mean, like, I know my kids used to watch Netflix in school all the time, so I know that, like, that you can, like, get around that stuff.
Listen,
so,
my wife banned Netflix and I was very upset.
yeah, I used to get the text, what's the Netflix password? But I guess I never, like, realized that, like, in elementary school that you could, like, access those
But also, I
things.
believe that some of those sites, without having an account, you can't access. So if a child is accessing the account at school, that's a bigger issue that the parent or guardian needs to talk with their
Yeah,
child.
but some
wouldn't
you
know,
can,
though.
though, you can.
Who wouldn't know?
Me, I wouldn't know
Well-
that William's Facebooking all day.
Then I would suggest you check. I'm not saying you personally, but like when I deal with parents, they call me, I tell them, take your child's phone
Yeah.
and computer and go.
So,
look
okay,
what they're
I
doing.
have
So
a, I have a
back
quick
to-
question.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is some of us, and I'm not taking position, but to your point, sir, some of us parents don't give our kids the phones and the stuff, and we have like a desktop in the living room, so we know what they're accessing. I think the point here is, if you're giving them a computer, I didn't realize that my the elementary school kids, mine don't bring them home. My daughter's in 2nd, so I don't think this is my issue with her, but like if she was created a Facebook account for herself at school and was doing it, I would have how would I know that?
I don't think we can know unless
Correct.
we go in, even on the
So-
Chromebook, I don't know if our permissions
But
on
if-
the Chromebook will let us see their history the way it would on a home Chromebook.
But
If you really drill down.
Can they?
I don't know.
If you have, through the GoGuardian
You
parent
could
app, you
go-
can
right,
typically
if you
see.
So I
download
need the
what
app
they
to be
do.
able to do it.
Yeah, so actually, and what
what
was
I'm
brought up.
hearing,
Yeah,
oh,
so,
go ahead.
so what was brought up actually, so, the criticism, the criticism, or
Helpful
feedback
Helpful feedback.
was, I think, where the actual, breakdown is, and something that we've actually identified, this year that we're currently, actually even today, we're currently trying to resolve with a lot of staff, is, how they can utilize these tools to effectively get that result. Because, they've existed, and, I think, so like that feedback, I think applying that on a policy level, could have some unforeseen consequences that would basically require us to act. Because we do potentially then run the risk of, we're essentially saying in some of our policies that while you're on our equipment, we're responsible for what you do under these certain scenarios. But if we're gonna block that, say, beyond school hours, we are making decisions on behalf of parents. Outside school hours,
Don't
some people
do
maybe
that,
know
right.
Facebook, some people
Yeah.
maybe, that's fine, I'd
Right.
rather teach them how to use it. Or some people would rather just have the kid have, whatever style they go,
So-
it's their choice.
I
So
have
from oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had
No,
a
no.
couple quick questions and a comment. So for the GoGuardian app in the classroom, I'm not familiar with how, from the teacher side, it works. Does that mean like if you block a website in your classroom, as soon as the student moves to a different classroom, then they have access to it? Is that how I understand how it works in practice? And then, so I guess when I'm hearing the conversation going back and forth, it seems like there's productive use of different tools and websites, but then there's the issue of not. And I don't know how to resolve that and that thought process, but it seems more of a procedure versus a policy piece, where the policy, in my opinion, should be broad enough to allow school leaders, so principals and teachers, to be able to figure out what fits best, because what's working at the high school is not going to be the same thing that's going to work at the middle school and the elementary level. And then the other point that I just like to make is, regardless of what happens and what gets blocked and what doesn't get blocked, as soon as they turn 18 and move into non-high school world, like, the floodgates are open regardless. So, you know, more in the procedure part versus the policy piece, but maybe there's some overlap of how we're preparing students. Like, it's one thing to say, no, we can't use these websites and we can't do this and we can't do that, but then not teaching them how to use that productively, especially, like, I don't wanna get into, you know, the rabbit hole of like AI, but like, what does that look like in terms of as they move on past high school, and using those tools in a productive way, that may fall into policy broadly, but more procedure at the schools.
I think a big piece of it is education. I hate to like give us all more work to do, but you know, even some of the pieces of Go Guardian, I didn't actually realize I could use successfully until this year, until I really started seeing an issue with it. And I think as a parent, I was having a conversation with another parent when the cell phone policy was put in place, and I was telling that parent how during the day, my daughter was a freshman at the time, and during the day I shut down her cell phone digitally from my phone. And she's like, you can do that? Yes, you can do that. You can shut down your kid's phone. And I think there's just a lot of just, you know, lack of guidance around how to use things like AI successfully as a tool and not like as a complete and utter problem solver. Maybe, you know, the conversation kind of shifts as far as, you're right, there's a difference here between policy and procedure, and I think maybe the conversation needs to shift for parent education, how maybe people need help, like understanding how to do this, you know, this might be hard for some people.
All very valid. Going back to the policy. No, like, it's such an important conversation, but I always think about, I completely agree that we don't want to make annoyances for our teachers in utilizing resources that they think are helpful in the classroom. Like, that is a big thing for me. But I also understand that, like 11-year-olds might view the world, like, are doing different things than using them for educational tools, right? So that's what I'm trying to balance in my mind. So one of the things I did just check, and I think it's connected to the policy a little bit, is I went into the Aspen parent workflow to see what I had signed for the responsible use of technology in the Chromebook agreement. And like what that was referencing, because I also was trying to see if there was any reference to me knowing that Go Guardian existed, because as school committee chair, I learned about it like maybe 6 months ago, and my kids have been in the school district for 6 years. No fault, but like, you know, like if I don't know who like, I pay attention, so like who, like I missed it somewhere.
I will give a plug to Chaz,
Yeah.
because my kids are older than yours, and I knew it existed, so
That's great.
it's been out there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was also at COVID. We came in during COVID, so it was weird. It was a weird time. But anyway, so I was trying to see if there was something that notified me to that, or notified us about, like, that students have, I think being transparent about the fact that students do have access to that through their devices is important. Because if we believe that as a district, and I think I do, like, we should at least tell people so that they're not surprised when their kid comes home and they've been accessing Instagram on their Chromebooks. You know, but then I was trying to think of if that fits in a policy or if it fits in the workflow piece, and does it have to be in the policy to be in the workflow, please?
Because that's where I looked, because that parent emailed us, and I was like, because I did not know that, having had 4 kids go through this district, like, and so I looked, and I was like, is it in here? And all it says is, we block porn, like, that's basically what it says. And I do think that makes a difference, right? Like, to at least let parents know, like you said, Mia, like, so that you can, if you want to, like, figure out how you can restrict that, right? Like, so I think maybe noting it somewhere, like, this is what we don't let through, but this is what we do, right? Just,
Is there a part that talks about blocking in this internet
well,
policy?
there is something that says, like, filtered categories, right? Like, we talk here about how, like, you have to have a list of filtered categories, and I had a question, like, where is that list kept? Like, is that available? Like, so maybe like if we have that list, like it would show what's filtered and then by default, what's not filtered.
Sure.
So,
To answer the question, yes, we do have the list,
Okay.
because we actually use it to reference, and honestly, every monitoring tool I've explored, even beyond GoGuardian, all do it kind of the same way. And most of them basically say, here's what SIPA says, you need these on, we can turn them off for whatever reason, but you need these on, and then there's a bunch of others.
yeah,
And so there is, for sure, so we could, I think to your point, I'm not, whether I can find a way to put it into the Aspen workflow or to have it part of like, maybe we can maybe have it part of like welcome packets for like, I'm not sure what
Yeah,
the principals
just
exactly send out
something,
to students.
yeah.
Because that is a good point, and honestly, that's the thing that I'm finding as well, over the last year, is that we have a lot of these tools that can solve a lot of problems, and I just wanna make sure that we're messaging it better, that, hey, just so you know, it exists, and
Yes,
here's how to use
and
it.
here's
We're
how to
working
use
on
it.
that now, especially, because a
So
lot of
this-
these things that come up, I'm like, you just don't know, it
Yes,
exists,
it's
that's all
here,
it is.
yeah.
So this policy doesn't reference GoGuardian at all? And
I
I don't wanna reference like I know it's a, how do I use that word? Like should we put some language in this policy about the fact that teachers have a mechanism to like block sites? Like I don't wanna use the name of the company, cause I know that could change at any moment, but like there's no reference to that, like it says like big picture, we might block stuff. But like I always try to think of best case, worst case scenario, and like if a parent was mad that a teacher blocked a site, like I wanna make sure that we're covered from a policy perspective, that they have the right to do so utilizing the provided whatever.
In which one are you referring to, where in particular are you
I
referring to?
don't know where I would put it, but
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'm saying
Almost-
like we talk about like the overarching block, but we
Yes.
don't talk about the fact that like that they have the right
In addition to this, teachers can actually.
yeah, that
do
they
more
they
if they
can
want to.
utilize the district provided, whatever that thing is called, not the, like whatever that, or I don't know what it's called, blocky thingy. Yeah.
Well, I see what you're
No,
saying.
but I don't wanna reference the company, like I wanna reference what the company is, like a protection, internet, whatever.
Internet filtering tool.
District
Yeah,
access thing.
so I would recommend including that, if that's our mechanism. And then also to Jen's point, we need to figure out where that list, how to reference that list properly in the policy.
So actually, honestly,
I said,
what we could do is at minimum, refer to SIPA, specifically. Like, that is our guiding minimum, like at minimum, or for reference, like, I'm not sure if it's, if the phrase at minimum is the best one, or, but if anyone's curious about the things we do block, SIPA at the very least provides what we have to block. Because there may be, and the reason why I want to be a little careful about putting even categories too much into policy is categories and their names can change as well pretty dramatically. So you have things like, we could get, if we talk about like AI, right, we may say as a district, you know, we don't want this age group using AI at all, but they may use tools that are machine learning that are AI, or that aren't AI but are machine learning, and they're very,
they
very
definitely use
similar,
AI.
but they're not the same. So we may want to be a little, I think it's more like, the one thing I at least appreciate about SIPA is it explains the result of the problem, or it's a little more broad, like pornography, harm, like self-harm, things like that are pretty non-categorized, so to speak, but they're clear and evident.
And
So-
isn't YouTube blocked until the teacher like lifts the video?
No, YouTube is available.
Some videos are blocked.
Some
Yeah,
videos
not-
are blocked.
We have to go in and.
Some videos are, yeah, and that's a tool that YouTube lets us leverage. Yeah, so if the tool lets us do that, we absolutely try to leverage it as much as we can, because there are things that shouldn't be there, there are the people we don't want people to see, but there's good value. So,
One thing that I didn't see in here, and maybe I missed it as I was looking through SIPA and internet filtering, from a policy standpoint, is there a, like, plan to like review, like what websites are blocked and who is part of that? I guess maybe that's more on the procedure side, so I apologize, but I didn't see anything.
It is, but it isn't.
It is in the,
Yeah.
I think it's in the internet filtering policy, it
Yeah.
does say the technology committee, or that we have to appoint a technology committee.
Got it, I see it now, thank you.
Give a report
Yep,
to
and
the
then-
committee too.
Exactly, yep, and then every year we
Got it,
have to
thank you.
provide that, yep.
does it say who should be on the?
Yes,
It
it's IT staff, administrators, educators, and students, it has to be open to them. Right now, like we have one right now, actually, one of the things when this came back up, filtering, we don't have students that I'd be very open to including to them. Because right now we have essentially like tech leads, people a little more technical savvy, but arrange from support staff and teachers on there.
What
And-
page does that say it on?
Sorry.
Page one of
the
internet
two.
Yeah,
filtering
just
under
policy.
technology committee.
And so Chaz, you think this whole 2A can be pulled into the SIPA policy?
Yeah, because essentially SIPA says we need to make a policy about internet filtering, and what we have essentially is the SIPA internet use policy is saying we're gonna make one, and it's gonna do these things. And then we have a separate one that says exactly what it does. I think we could just put them in one. I don't see why we need to have it be two separate. They actually don't have too much overlap. If you go from, essentially policy statement where it start on the internet filtering from technology committee down, where I was looking was essentially taking, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. On the internet use policy, IJNDB2, from SIPA compliance, section 6 refers to our internet filtering policy,
Yep.
which
Yep.
defines those, what that policy is. I really think we can just
Drop that right in there.
drop 6 or put it right after 6 and cut the reference to the policy
Yeah.
name and just say,
Put that in there.
and just call it internet filtering and have it be a section under SIPA compliance in itself.
And-
That way, if SIPA ever changes and our policy is behind, we're still referencing SIPA, and we need to abide by SIPA
Yeah, that would be
regardless.
like, yeah.
Yeah, it'll supersede without us having to necessarily be that fast if we're behind.
But we're saying also that we would wanna add to this something about the classroom level, filtering, correct?
I think that you were more indicating the responsible use of technology piece where the workflow would be? Am I
No.
understanding that correctly? Okay.
No, I probably said that too, but in the last thing I was saying that we reference, something about, oop, oh gosh, I just deleted something, nope, I fixed it. But
Up and under purpose.
something under the blocking, like, sites part, it talks about us as like an overarching, like, like the district could block things based on whatever. But I do feel like it's important to have some reference to the fact that we provide staff and teachers technology to individually, does that make more sense?
Yes, I'm following.
I think
Yes.
the staff would be grateful.
Yes, I'm following that. And that's under the internet use.
I thought it should go under internet filtering or internet use, one of them, somewhere, put it somewhere, I don't care.
I think you said filtering.
It makes sense in my brain under filtering because we're talking about how the district will filter based on
I
the
think,
SIPA list and then how the individual educators will filter.
Internet filtering purposes, I think, is what you're talking about. If you added a spot to that just a sentence that basically
Yeah.
clarified that staff
Yeah.
has the ability to increase that as needed.
Abby has a question.
Would you be able to fit that in under the technology commitment and before the request to unblock a website? Because I feel like something saying that we can monitor, like, or the teachers can, not me, what students are on and like being able to block certain websites like during the school day. I think that could fit between those two.
Mhm. Yeah, because then if they were blocked or denied and they wanted to appeal that, like that would happen after that. That's smart.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. And there is a process defined in there about how to request a block or unblock and how that process goes.
Would that include what we're talking about here with teachers and using GoGuardian? What were you describing there?
Yeah,
Request
I'm
unblock?
thinking so, right? I think if I'm understanding correctly, what the goal there is, we would add essentially something explicit that explains that staff, realistically, all teachers or anybody who oversees instruction has the ability to block.
Right, but what I'm asking is that, would that apply, would the same procedure apply that had to do with unblocking a website apply to that? I can't imagine it would.
Oh, no, the request to unblock a website is for district level.
Got it,
filtering.
that's right, that's, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
something, so essentially the way I will look at it is,
So
alright,
like-
so
No, go ahead, sorry.
if IT is blocking something, it's blocked across, it's just blocked,
Yeah,
essentially. If there's something that someone thinks is valuable that has been caught in a block, which becomes complicated to undo, but like, whether they want it or not, blocked or unblocked, that request would come to us, we would observe whether or not. That would be on an individual basis, but that would be for individual website basis, but the application would be district-wide, if that makes sense. So a teacher would basically control their classroom's block beyond what we already block. Am I?
Right, no, that makes sense.
But the appeal would go.
I'm gonna talk hypothetical, if
Sure.
it's okay. So I'm a student in your class.
Oh,
You
okay.
wanna block me from something, right,
Yeah.
using GoGuardian, because I'm not using it right, or there's a problem, whatever. Is that now going to apply just in the class I'm in with you, or is that gonna apply like to me broadly beyond that?
So, that's interesting, actually. That's a good point, because if the teacher was blocking something that they thought was valuable, they would appeal to the teacher to be able to access it.
Right.
I don't have.
What I'm saying, I
Yeah,
guess, is
I
that
see where you're going.
I may not, maybe you need to block it from me in my state, but I'm not, if I'm in Ms. Thompson's class, it's okay, it's something that she needs me to have access to, you know what I'm saying?
I've never
Just
felt
as
older
a,
than I do now.
I think we do that at the, so GoGuardian kind of works based on time, right? So you program it to only monitor the students' computers for a certain amount of time. So basically, the minute that time runs out, am I correct in saying this, Chaz? Please correct me if I'm wrong, then the filter comes off.
Correct.
So
That's how.
I only put it on for 80 minutes because I don't know what other teachers, some
Right.
teachers are like, hey, you did all your work, go play a video game, sure. You know, I don't know. I don't wanna like, I don't know what
Yeah, you just put it on for the time the
Yeah, you
students
just
are
put it on
with
for the time you're
Correct.
teaching, so it does clear up after.
got it.
And if a teacher, say you are teaching a class and you block a website, and for some reason the student is now in my class early, or for some reason it didn't come off, I can unblock it. I can override your
Yeah.
You, the
filter.
student?
You can
on-
end,
To
yeah.
the no, the student can't, the teacher can't. So
So if
from
Mr.
period to
Mezzanotte
period,
blocked it, then someone comes to my class early, I can unblock what Mr. Mezzanotte.
you can remove their, filter.
Not
So
the
what I
filter
would
though,
s-
the GoGuardian.
The GoGuardian,
The GoGuardian
right.
block.
So,
what
I'm
I-
sorry,
Okay,
yes.
back to the policy piece of
Yes.
it, the question would be is do we need to write in an appeals process for students if they are displeased with their teachers blocking it? That's what Rob,
Well, yeah.
that's the question, right?
But
for
I
the
think
policy
before,
part?
yes, it is, but I would say before we get to that, I think we probably wanna, if we're gonna put this in the
Yeah.
policy, we probably should clearly define what the purpose around that is, which is, I'm hearing it as a purpose where a teacher,
Yeah.
as the leader of a class,
Yeah.
uses this to exercise, classroom management, or, whatever it is with regard to the class that they are in charge of. So and then saying, so that's what the purpose of that is.
Yes.
Is for the teacher to be able to exercise that level of authority with regard to, the class. And then for there to be I wouldn't think that there would be any sort of an appeal at the student level to something like that. I think the
I would
appeal
hope
would
not.
exist only when it came to a district blocking
Right.
of a site where we have a process, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Cause Mia,
It's
did
not
I
always-
hear you right, that like, so like today you might be like, I'm blocking everybody, nobody's doing anything
Yeah, it's
for
not
80
always for
minutes.
behavioral
Yeah,
issues.
or,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
tomorrow you
Right.
might not block anybody,
Right.
it's not like
Mhm.
this student is blocked
Oh,
every
yeah,
class
it's
for
not
the
permanent.
entire year,
Mhm.
okay, yeah.
Right.
So I don't think an appeals process on behalf of the student for something like
No.
GoGuardian is
Yeah.
necessary.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so are we feeling the same way about this policy as we were about the other two, that we agree they make sense to merge? We agree on the basic, like, content, but they just need to be made a little bit more user-friendly? Everybody?
And we can definitely look into ways to make sure the parents are also aware of the app and the tools that they have as well, for sure, separately from policy.
And speaking of AI, I know that the high school is offering a couple things I saw go out in the email about like ways to use AI as a tool that's being offered. I thought that was good.
Well, we'll get to debate that later.
We would
We have the, huh?
I was just gonna say, for anyone who's watching this, during this conversation, I learned about GoGuardian Parent, I downloaded it, and all I had to do was put in my email address, and it pops up preloaded with my kids, and it is very simple, so.
It's very
wow,
simple.
Yes,
It
like
really
incredible, like I
is.
can see how to block it, I can check it, that's amazing.
So Chaz, I
Yep.
pinged you.
Chaz, I'm gonna forward you a
newsletters,
really
so we're
nice
gonna
email that I got in
bombard
2022 that I ignored, but you can. It was a weird time. I
It
will
was a
forward
weird
you.
thing.
We already have a section going in our next newsletter. GoGuardian,
Ah,
so that,
There we
so.
go.
Yeah, I take back what I said earlier about this.
That's okay.
About what I
Like
need
you
to add
said,
in
rate
there,
it-
yeah.
rate-
So, Jen, I'm a little lost in the sauce on what policies.
I got it in my head. So
Okay.
we've got the INJD, we've got the responsible use of tech that we're combining with the logon usage, and we've got the SIPA that we're combining with the internet filtering.
Correct.
Okay. So that.
What about, SIPA's internet use, got it.
So that leaves, the only other internet policy that we need to talk about is the WISP, the IJNDB4, which is the Written Information Security Program, which, when last we spoke, we pretty much just needed to, make it look like one of our other policies, cause it didn't have philosophy, purpose, that type of thing.
Yeah, basically, just the headers needed to be changed to match.
Yeah, and it looks like you changed a couple titles.
Mhm.
Do we
Yeah, so-
need that reference to Massachusetts or no? In that first sentence?
We probably don't need to.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of this was I just took from, the trust said what they expected.
Yeah.
So anything that they had explicitly stated, I quite honestly
I
copied.
guess in theory, we could have an employee that lives in Mass, yeah, no?
You have an employee in Connecticut too,
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm from
sure.
Connecticut,
Oh,
so.
yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
But it's, I think the reason, it might just be what they cover. I'm not sure what their coverage is of what.
Yeah, cause this came right from the trust, didn't it?
Most of this is
Yeah.
straight from them, yeah, so there are parts that
Okay, we can
I,
leave it, it just felt weird to me.
I get you, I get you.
It's the mass equivalent, so. You
And a
can
lo-
leave it, but
And a lot of this is just in the event if we are affected by a cyber attack, as long as we've been abiding by this to our best, then they cover us, essentially. But the majority
I
of
guess
this.
your information isn't covered because you live in Connecticut.
Yeah, good
You're
to
out of luck.
That's it, yeah. But besides this, I think the only real things that we had to change was, yeah, the general layout, any reference to chief operating officer, we changed to assistant superintendent, so they can, or they, choose a designee. Change two-factor to multi-factor, because that's a much more accurate, term. And we referenced, near the bottom of our electronic file safeguards, a cybersecurity framework, just that is nationally recognized, so it can provide some guidance and understanding. If someone says, why is the district choosing this rule, but it's not explicitly stated somewhere, it's gonna be coming from that framework. Again, just so that way we're not having to rush to amend, individual points on the policy if, there's a framework we can already follow.
Did anybody have any questions or comments on this one? No? Okay. So are people comfortable moving this on to the school committee based on the changes we discussed, with the understanding that they'll be cleaned up before they go?
If it's okay, I just wanna make sure I got everything as far as the changes are concerned. So we're combining responsible use with, logon usage, we did that already. We're combining SIPA with filtering, yes? And then in the responsible use, we wanna look at the number of times NKSD is used, we wanna look at inclusive language, we wanna look at the guest user phrase, that we wanna look at that,
The definition you.
correct? Alright, and then with the SIPA filtering one, we wanna look at, the
Classroom level
the
block.
classroom level, right,
Just adding
classroom level.
a general sentence about that.
okay, alright.
That does lead me to a question, I'm not sure, so this is I have not changed the title of a policy before, the numbering, so if we got rid of logon usage, is the policy number changed, so like the,
Jen figured.
doesn't matter?
I said Jen figures that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, if we're moving that into that, the original policy will stay that and we'll delete the other one.
And then, so like the written information security program stays -4?
Yes.
So those don't change, okay, I just wanna make sure we don't, if we needed to clean that up, we
Yep,
can,
yep.
okay.
No, they're confusing enough as it is without moving them all around.
It's a good question.
Okay. So does somebody wanna make the motion to move those along to the school committee with the changes as discussed?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, awesome. Our first official policy movement. Good job, everybody. Thank you, Chaz.
You've done, thank you.
Okay, so Ken, you're up for the cultural respect and inclusive engagement.
Rings are opening the right one. Thank you, Jess. So everyone should have a copy of the revised draft. It's dated 11/24/25 for cultural respect and inclusive engagement. After the last meeting, I took into consideration like any of the comments, changes, and revised it as far as the policy itself. I did not receive any other feedback from staff that would require changes of the policy. So any comments of what's here? Changes are in blue, and I restructured some of it around the policy section.
I had thought that we were going to like have a little policy and then we were gonna have like recommended or suggested practices kind of after the policy, cause we had talked about like if it was in the policy, there was a concern that like teachers would feel like they had to do every single thing in the policy. That was how I had left the need. Maybe I misunderstood, like maybe that was just me. But I thought we were gonna have like a few like little things in the policy and then, and here are some suggestions of ways that might look like kind of outside the policy.
Alright, so if we look at the section on page 2, that starts with policy. So we have the first section, intentional and informed instruction.
Can we go, do you wanna go, I have questions on page 1, or do you
Okay,
want me
go
to
ahead,
wait?
yeah.
I was just curious, thanks for doing this, Ken, like where the definitions came from, are those like, did you make those up, or is there a source that we could point to?
So
Not make them up, but you know what I mean, like
no,
is there
what I
like
did
a?
was I pulled it off of, I went through the internet. Obviously, there wasn't just one definition, so I looked at different definitions that we used to kind of come up, because there were comments about like the last time about the section about especially martial arts.
Okay, so this is
or
our
so-
definition of it.
So I
Okay,
pulled
that's
it
fine.
out, so I did, and I was trying to find a definition so I could put a source
Yep.
on there, but I was not.
No, that's
finding
helpful.
that could
That's-
be used.
Yep.
So I took definitions that I was finding off of certain sites to create that, there, and then the cultural responsive, I had combined information that I found.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
No, but I tried really hard to get a definition
Yeah, no
and
worries.
cite it.
It's
but
hard,
that
there
was
isn't
not
one,
possible.
no, I know.
So,
We did some.
even defining primary source and secondary source was challenging to do so.
That was on my question on page 1.
Okay.
So under the policy section, do we want to maybe say that, I guess, what do we wanna keep under policy and want to move towards suggestions?
Like, I think all the things that you added are great, and I am fine with leaving it all in
Mhm.
policy, but I had walked away from the meeting with a different understanding, but maybe I'm the only one who walked away with that understanding. In which case, this works for me. What does everybody else think?
I walked away with that same impression,
Okay.
but I actually like how this reads, like, I don't, as I was reading through it, I felt like it met that intent of what we're doing, even though it wasn't separated out. Like, I feel like the language in it is not as harsh. It's more, I don't wanna say supportive, but it just sounds different,
Framed
like
in a-
the
It's
tone of
softer.
it is
Yeah.
much softer, so I don't know if it's necessary to have like a pull-out section of like, here's some great ideas of what to do.
We could put the header, like, guideline for practice, or like something to indicate that it's more guideline, like, I'm trying to think of other ways I've seen it in policies, because I don't disagree with what it says, but I do remember hearing that teacher last time, you know, very concerned about people being worried and then having it hinder doing the exact opposite of, I think, what we were hoping it would do, so I don't know if this makes it better or worse.
Yeah, like a way to phrase it, like, so that, like, this is the,
I think the reason why we went or talked about that separate thing is because in the policy piece, that's the teeth, that's like what you have to do, and then that's where the consequences come because it's a policy. And I think it's a very fine line to go between like guidelines versus policy, to be able to differentiate between those two. Like,
what
if you want somebody to conduct research from a credible source, it's not really a guideline, that's what you're telling them that they need to do. It's not if you feel like it, it's this is what needs to happen. Where a guideline would be, this is how you would do that. Or here's some examples, or here's some things to think about.
So I'm gonna throw this out there, then does this need to be a policy, or is it more guidance that we're providing to staff?
no, it needs to be a policy. I'm just trying to figure out how, what I heard the last time was that there was a potential for a concern that somebody would look at this and say, there's no way I can do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And so that they would say, forget it, I'm not gonna do any of it. So like, we wanna provide guidance and suggestions, but make it, you know, what if we said something like, you know, the North Kingstown School Committee of the school district encourages educators to, you know, practice whatever in ways that, you know, or it encourages educators to incorporate practices which provide blah, blah, blah.
You can call it like encourage cultural practices, and can I ask a question, and I'm so sorry if this was answered already. Is this an addendum to the DEI policy, or is this its own separate policy?
We don't have a DEI policy.
We don't have a DEI.
No.
So would this become part, so there's nothing about that DEI committee does not have a policy? It's just-
We do not,
Okay.
yeah.
The establishment of that committee is in a policy about advisory committees and things like that, I believe.
No, the DEI policy was established through a charge.
No, but like in the like definitions of what groups we have,
Oh, yeah.
that one's listed
Yeah.
as one of the ones in an approved policy, but other than that, no.
Okay. I was only asking because I thought this would be a nice part of that particular, you know, policy, if there was a
Yeah.
policy place.
I mean, ideally, one day we will have multiple policies that fit under that umbrella.
But I do, like, I don't think you were making, like, I do also feel the same way, like, I think this is much, it's a very delicate subject, right, because we have so many teachers doing so many interesting, wonderful, culturally diverse practices that are not from the culture that they are teaching, and I think the overall concern that the lovely woman from Davisville Middle School said, and I actually also made this commentary when the request was made that, you know, we just have to be very mindful of being too directive with our verbiage, because if we are, then we might scare some teachers out of practicing. We're in a very, you know, kind of politically torn up environment right now, and I think teachers are unfortunately, you know, very stressed more than usual because they feel like their policies are being under a microscope. So I think this is great. Ken, I think you did a great job softening it quite a bit. There's a lot of, when I was looking through it, there's a lot of like encouragement and suggestions, and I think that's great. But I would consider the title maybe perhaps being more, you know, culturally diverse encourage culturally diverse practices or something like that. So it's not a, you know, a demand.
Yeah,
It's
I
more
mean,
of
we
a-
could, I mean, I'm open to anything with this, I tried really hard to be able to put something forward that
I think it's
was,
great.
you know, positive with suggestions and didn't come down as something that was, gonna have consequences for teachers if they
Yeah.
made a mistake.
No, and I appreciate that. It definitely reads that way,
Yeah.
so good job, I think, personally.
I mean, if you go back and look at the title, I mean, that's something that the committee's open to, if revising the title to something different.
I don't think the title of the policy, I think more like the lead into
Purpose,
like, before the bullets, right? Like,
Also, Laura said this, and Jen, you agreed with it, and I would also question like the verbiage around, individual from a dominant culture.
yeah, I thought we had agreed that that was coming out. I thought we all discussed that the last time.
Thought I did take it out. Where is it?
It's under definitions, it's like,
In my copy, it's struck through.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably structured as well.
oh, really? Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong copy.
Make sure you're on the November
Oh, I'm
24th,
on the
25.
wrong copy, my bad.
I think it went
Maybe all
out
those nice
via
things you just said are
email,
wrong.
Oh, it went out, okay.
Or linked to email, I did look in the policies for it.
I guess, can I ask a question out of ignorance? Why does it need to be a policy versus something that the administration handles, just educating teachers with how they want it done?
Because we tried that before several times and it didn't work.
Me, I just sent it to you.
Oh,
I think for me,
Well,
the challenge
have it,
is,
so-
on both sides, like one, making sure that folks know like what is appropriate, in the classroom, but then if something does happen, like how do we make sure that, you know, students are, for lack of a better word, protected and like it is able to be, like, the administration can say, hey, this is not like what our district believes in, like this is not, you know, how our district behave, you know, like worst case scenario, like being able to kind of have some sort of backbone to allow the administration and then ultimately the school committee as it comes up, like to point back to a policy to make sure that we're doing right by students. That's my opinion. To Jen's point, I don't think it has to be, I go back and forth in my brain about like what should or shouldn't be in it. Because I do think that in our district we've had some specific examples, and I think for me that's our goal, is to try to, you know, make sure that we have something in place for students, but then also like not going to that other place where like people are scared to teach anything, and like that's definitely not my goal. My goal is the exact opposite, to make sure that we're doing things and doing it correctly and well so that we can help educate the students. And so for me it's that piece of like, if something does happen, like being able to do some corrective measures to ensure that it doesn't in the future.
I was just gonna say, I really like under the policy, the numbers, like each of the intentional informed instruction. I think if you look at like good quality instruction, like for whether it's culturally tied or not, like doing research and, you know, representing respectfully, I think that's just good practices across the board. So as a teacher, like it feels like reading through it, like yes, there are like you shall do this and you shall do this, but those are all things that teachers are doing anyway. So it doesn't feel like it's adding on anything else. Like if I was going to do something in my classroom, I would do research beforehand and try to bring in primary sources as best I could, but it doesn't say you have to bring in primary sources. The goal is to bring in primary sources or have other additional sources that meet what you're trying to do. Like I think as you go through, like from a teacher standpoint, I feel like it really helps guide like what you need to do, almost in a way like a checklist of like, have I done this, have I done this, have I done this, as you go through. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm reading through this declaration. Yeah, let's hope that.
Like I wouldn't look at this and feel like it would prohibit me from doing a worthwhile, meaningful activity in the classroom. Like reading through it, I don't feel like it's prohibitive, but it does say like, you can't just throw something together and do whatever you feel like. You have to do the research and have a plan ahead of time, which is what teachers are taught to do, the backwards planning and figuring out what is your objective and how do you get to that objective and what is the assessment piece. And I feel like that, when I read through this, comes out pretty clear.
So Ken, I just took a piece of what you had under purpose and moved it down under policy. I put it in red. How does that read?
I think that's good there.
What?
Whatever, so I think that's good there.
And
Right, and
then,
then it's just how these are examples of how this will be accomplished.
and then I would move,
The only question I have about the examples piece, like when I read that, I feel like this is only a small portion versus this is what you'll do. And I don't know if that, like, I think it takes away from that, like, if I'm doing this, we're good. Where when you say these are examples, like in the policy portion, not like here are some examples that you can use
Yeah, I wouldn't do
separately.
that last
Like in the policy, it's like, well, this is our policy, but it makes it feel like it's not incorporating everything.
I don't think you need that last sentence. I think you just, that first sentence, and then it can go into the bullet list, personally.
I thought that we were trying to.
These aren't examples, though.
So,
In my mind, they're not examples.
so just leave it like that? I think there needs to be one sentence between that one and this, the bullet.
This is accomplished by, instead of examples, to your point, that way you kind of say, this is how we do it.
This will be accomplished by.
Yeah, because I think that works because if you read it as a sentence and then like don't get bogged down with the ABCs, like if you just read it by like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
like that makes sense like as a sentence,
And
right?
then-
It would be accomplished by intentional, informed, instructed. It's accomplished by respectful representation. You know, like you can do that all the way down, which makes sense.
And then I kind of feel like, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right, is what we're saying, like, this is how we're gonna accomplish
Yeah,
this,
and then
right?
you need a different header
Yeah,
about
and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is
So
kind
I
of.
just take off the 5, right, and
Just
professional learning. is
change
the
it
header.
to
I was gonna say, like, the district, like, then we're saying as a district, we will commit to 5, 6, 7,
Right.
8.
I think you
and
change, I
nine.
don't think you make it a list. I think you add a header there and then you
Take
can
out the
have it.
numbers.
Yeah.
So, instead of policy, what's that header?
Like, I mean, that one's like training and education, like the, right, that next bullet's about professional learning, so like something
Training
about,
and education?
I'm just thinking about how we've done some other policies where we've talked about PD, like that's, something like that.
Do we need a heading for that, or do we just professional learning is the heading, collaboration and feedback is the heading? Like, why do we need a heading?
Cause
Yeah.
I feel like all of those fall under, like, we're saying this is the policy, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, like, this is how we're going to support the execution of the policy by, we as a district are going to.
I'm with Ken, I don't think you
You
need
don't
it,
think?
I think you could just have a heading of professional learning, and then it could have those bullets, and you could have a heading of collaboration and feedback, and then you could have those bullets.
I think it keeps it explicit.
But that's just my opinion versus yours though, like if other people feel
I think-
differently, that's,
I think we're okay just using what's there as the headings of each of those sections.
Under 2C, possible to perhaps, section a little bit. And I'll tell, and I can actually use very specific examples as to why, although, you know, I taught a lesson on patterning, and I used an Indian, sorry, my family travels a lot to India, so I used an Indian sari. I stretched out in front of, it might have been your class, I stretched it out in front of the class, and we actually have a TA in the room who was Indian, and she and I would show the kids how to wrap the sari and how ladies from India wore the sari. If I just read this without knowing that, you know, what I'm doing is, it could be reviewed as cultural appropriation. Staff, students, volunteers, and visitors shall refrain from wearing entire accessories, face paint, makeup, et cetera, et cetera. I may have changed my entire lesson. And I feel like, I understand what you're trying to say, obviously, you know.
So, and I agree with you on that, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want you to stop from doing that, because what you were doing, you were educating the students on those,
Right,
that attire.
yeah,
So maybe what this would say, decorations in a manner that
is culturally respectful,
is,
or.
right? So because, like, we may bring in that clothing. I mean,
Mhm.
the some of that, right? Because I mean, you may have clothing from other cultures you're bringing in,
Mhm.
artifacts that you're bringing in as educating the students, and you're
Yeah.
bringing it as part of your instruction. As
And
long
yet-
as you're not doing it in a way that you are stereotyping or
Exactly,
ridiculing that person's culture, that
exactly.
person's culture.
And I totally know what this says, because I sadly still do know art teachers that make Kachina dolls, Day of the Dead. So I totally understand that. And I agree with you, but I'm just worried that it might, again, maybe a little too specific. Can we make it more positive and say, you know, this will be done for educational purposes, only using the conscious mindfulness that it is being done with respect toward the culture, or something like that. Just a little rewording, just a little, so that I'm not being scared from teaching students about Indian culture and saris
Right.
and patterning.
Can I yes and that? Because when I read that, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I'm thinking of, you know, it just says students and visitors shall refrain from. It doesn't necessarily mean in the context of education, so I'm wondering about how this would apply to students, what they choose to wear to school, and especially with respect to hairstyles, makeup, and some outfits, which is why I said that, you know, especially as to the word mimic, which has a negative connotation, but doesn't always mean that. I'm used to little Lance Corporal C lawyers, right, so I'm just saying, I would hate to have this weaponized against somebody who likes to wear their makeup or their hair in a way that someone else says, you can't wear your hair like that because you're not of a certain, or you can't wear that makeup because you're not.
Jen, I just put a suggestion in the chat. I put a suggestion in the chat that I Googled and tried to flip it, like, to see, and I found this one. We encourage staff, students and volunteers and visitors to engage with cultural attire, symbols, and traditions in ways that are respectful, accurate, and educational. Cultural clothing, accessories, face paint, makeup, should be worn only when they support genuine learning, honor, and culture, and guided by appropriate knowledge. Or teaching not by imitation or stereotype. I think that is closer.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you.
I grabbed it from the internet, but you're welcome. No, like I was just like, if we flip it, it'll work. So I think we still get the same vibe, but
Just
doesn't
hit yes,
say
there you
don't
go.
do it. Huh?
I thought I
What
hit
did you
this.
do?
I made it go away.
Hold on, I still have it.
I got it, I thought I like accepted it, but there we go. Okay. And then Katie, what were you saying?
So in terms of acting out cultural things, like a lot of foreign language classrooms, they're required to like make a meal that's a French meal, sit down and pretend like they're eating it. So that could be I would actually think the students might be like, well, that's in the policy. I don't have to do that. So, I mean, I don't know if it's too broad to say it that way, or if in this context it wouldn't apply to that situation. But something that's already like in textbooks, for example, like have your students make a North African tea and pour it, and this is how you pour in that region. I'm going to show you how you do it, and you can practice it. Like, is that a violation of the policy? Should it not be teaching like that? And that's in established textbooks, so I don't wonder if.
Ooh, and I teach Chinese calligraphy complete with the elbow up and holding the
Because
paintbrush
there's
and
a
the
way-
breathing techniques. I actually took a whole class on it. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, oh,
So,
that
like,
is actually
I was more concerned the kids might say, well, I don't have to do that activity.
Right.
Because
But
this
no,
policy
I'm
says
sorry.
it's a
This is
violation.
2B.
So it's 2B, and it was act out, and I understand the spirit of this, act out spiritual or
Yeah.
religious practices. They should not be required to participate
Completely.
in a religious practice in class. But in terms of acting out a cultural experience, like even having a market day where you build a market with your students and they, like, you have one kid's the fromager, one kid's running the marché, one kid's the boucher, and they, you know, sell their meat and their cheese in French. Like, the students could argue that, well, are we appropriating culture? I mean, I'm more concerned about classroom management than I am about the teacher getting in trouble necessarily. So the is just way of putting it there.
Abby, I don't wanna put you on the spot, Alton Jones, is this?
Oh, yeah. in a
Yeah, I
way.
think, Ken, was that what you were thinking of when you wrote this?
No, actually,
Okay. Yeah,
but I get what you're saying with the
Yeah.
Alton Jones experience, which is no more.
idea what
it's
you're
no
talking
more,
about.
but that type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah,
They can, where, I mean, the kids aren't acting it out, but
well, they
Yeah,
were,
it's
when
more-
my kids
Yeah.
were
We
in
were
school.
pretending to
Well,
be
they were,
like
yeah,
Holy
slaves on the
cow.
Underground Railroad.
yeah, oh, yeah, and my kids had to
Oh,
do
yeah,
it, so.
okay.
Are they doing it anymore?
no, it's no, it's
That's a very good question, Rob.
Well, we don't go to all.
Yeah, but
Alton Jones is
Alton
closed.
Jones is
Yeah.
closed, like it's
Yeah.
not.
So I think, okay, so we know we're trying to prevent something, but we also don't want to hinder amazing calligraphy learning.
Right.
No, I'm very serious, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I really respect the fine line that we are facing, but I also really worry that, like, in unintentional, sometimes ignorance, like, we do cause problems, right? Like, I don't think any teacher goes in and is like, today I'm gonna make students upset, but like, I do think that there is some things to regulate in this area, so just trying to figure out what that is. What if we flipped?
Can you say something like students can, students are not required to, participate in cultural, spiritual, I would leave out religious altogether, I don't.
Yeah.
Do we do that? I don't think we do that in public school at all.
Depends on the context. There's a
Yeah,
really
no,
fine
I'm
line
literally
between- There's a
asking,
fine
I
line
really
between
don't.
history and religion, I feel.
In terms of like dealing with Christmas in the elementary school, for example,
I gotcha, okay.
writing letters to the elf on the shelf, like there's an argument, is that a religious practice? If the students are doing that, is it not? Is it being contextualized as a secular practice? But
I would also wonder about
Sorry, did
music
you see that
performances.
writing?
a music
Mhm.
performances, would a music performance,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh my god.
What are we opening up there?
Yeah, can they not perform certain pieces?
Well, that's, yeah, and the high school does it.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
Ouch.
but it's not necessarily appropriate, I guess, to the.
But also, at a public school,
Yeah.
where do we live? Like, you know, that's an interesting thing to ponder.
Can you borrow from the same verbiage that you just used on the?
I just flipped it again, so students will learn about cultural, spiritual, and religious traditions through respectful education methods. That's the flip of it.
I like that, yeah.
I think that's great. I
I
think
think that's great, yeah.
I think when you read through everything, like other than, and I'll have to dig in a little bit deeper, but 2B and 2C were very clearly like, you will not do this, but all the other ones are very positive. And I think
Yes.
that's part of the tone, like you shall do
Yeah.
this, but it's like,
You
this
want it
is
to
what
be all
we're
in the
going
same
to do.
tenses, yeah. Right.
But I think if you flip it and make it, this is what we're going to do, it fits.
What about what you added in there, Aaron? Students will learn about cultural, spiritual, and religious traditions through respectful and educational methods.
You could add something, let's see.
I mean, it does change it.
You could add, something about like, something like that. Maybe consideration should be given before encouraging, oh, I forgot, students to act out or replicate these practices during instruction or school events, ensuring that learning honors the significance of each tradition. So like, it's not saying you can't or don't, but it's saying like you should consider why you're asking a student to act out something, or why you're, you know, like,
You're asking people to be mindful.
yeah, yeah, so it doesn't say can't or won't. Because like, there's a really, a teacher's always gonna be able to, pun intended, school us, right? They're gonna be able to give us a really good example. But I do think like what we're asking is like, hey, like just think about why they're acting it out, or what's the value in that,
Yeah.
and, you know, is there any potential harm in it? So that would be my suggestion on how to meet it kind of in the middle.
I think this whole document definitely reads as just be mindful when you're introducing a cultural practice that is not your own. And I read that here. And I think, you know, and I'm, like most teachers, I think, you know, we always look to be more mindful and show culturally responsive practices. None of us are ever, but, you know, I can see very quickly how Alton Jones being the outlier, right? How that can, good intentions can lead to not so healthy practices. So I think this is great because instead of saying, don't do this, this is gonna get you in trouble, which came from a place of, you know, mindfulness with the teacher, I think this reads more like, when you're doing this, do it mindfully and really think this through. You know, and I this reads that way to me, and I think that's good. I think we should all be more mindful in this day and age when we're investigating somebody else's culture. And I think really it was just everything under number 2. I was kind of like, ooh, you know, and the rest of it reads very, like you were saying, pretty fluidly to me.
The only thing I would say, and so going back to that, like, this is a policy, this is what we're wanting to do versus this is a suggestion. I'm wondering if, for the second one, consideration, instead of saying should be given, consideration shall be given, saying that you will, like, more the policy side, like, this is what we're asking you to do. Because when it says consideration should, it makes it seem like it's up to the teacher whether they should give consideration to this or not. Just, I don't know your
You just
thoughts.
say, you would just, it could
I would just
say-
change the word should to shall, so it makes it a little bit more directive versus, so consideration shall be given before encouraging students to act out or replicate versus should, because if it's should, then that's not binding to me that I need to do that, is how I'm reading it.
I don't know where when feasible falls in the binding part either, to that point.
Can you flip it and say like, questions about, this is said badly, I apologize, I'm getting tired.
Shall does mean what you said it means though, I just Googled the difference.
Yeah.
Good job, I don't know what you taught, but good job.
Like, can you say it in a way that's more, you know, again, by saying, you know, questions about any cultural practices should be directed to, you know, Dr. Duva, Rob Mezzanotte, you know, whomever. Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
No, I'm just saying in this part on the, what teachers or educators or guests shall do, like, if we say that the consideration should be given, so if I'm gonna have the students act out something, it's not a should, I shouldn't, it's not a wishy-washy, I should consider this, I need to consider what I'm asking them to act out and making sure that it is ensuring the learning honors the significance of each tradition. Like, I think if you say the word should, it's not as binding, because if I say you should do this, like, you should do your homework, you should brush your teeth, like, that doesn't mean that you have to, but the word shall means that you must do this before you have students act something out or do something. I just feel like it's a stronger verb, and it forces anybody that's having somebody act something out that they've done their due diligence, that what they're doing is providing value.
Oh. Maybe you wanna say when providing first-hand perspectives, educators shall engage cultural representatives or something like that, like flip the sentence maybe. I don't know if that made sense.
Yes, taking the when provided firsthand.
Yeah,
and
when
moving
providing
up.
firsthand perspectives, educators shall
Shall.
engage cultural representatives, families, or community partners to provide for.
Okay, so I am confused on 2B. I'm not sure where we are. I feel like I don't have the right one in here because I've got, looks like it says the same thing twice, so I think I missed an edit.
So there's 2 comments.
Yes.
So the first one was, those 2 comments combined should erase everything. Do you want me to just do it?
Yeah, can you please?
Yeah. I think that's right.
Okay.
I'll fix that. Too big, it's too big.
And then 1B, were we changing the tense on that also? When feasible, educators should engage. When providing, shall, or when feasible, educators shall engage. When providing.
I think you can leave that as should, because when feasible sort of it gets rid of shall. Shall is a directory
You
term,
can get
so you
rid of
can't
one
say
or
when
the
feasible
other.
you have to do this, right, exactly. You either have to do it, or when feasible you should try and do it. So I think as
One or
written, if
the
that's
other.
the intent, that's fine.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that, when feasible, educators should.
Right, that one's different because they can't always do it, that's why it says when feasible,
Okay.
whereas
Yes.
consider,
Yeah,
you
we
always
changed that.
can
Yeah.
consider.
We got rid of the mimic. Commitment to continuous improvement. I know you like specifics, Erin, so the district commits to regularly reviewing and updating this policy.
Yeah, I don't care how often, but I don't love the word regularly.
Annually
You know that.
reviewing?
I don't, that feels so done. I think annually seems too often, personally.
Okay,
I don't know.
well,
As needed and no less than every 5 years, because that's the policy for everything else.
I'm Googling what regularly defined means.
Just the district commits to reviewing and updating this policy.
Is our policy on the policy committee state how often policies need to be? Serious about that.
But is it 5 years?
I thought it was 5 years. I would look it up
Policy
before I committed, but I
development.
thought it was 5. I will look.
I would say something like this because it does change, like, I think things evolve, like in this area, and people learn
Yeah.
more and do better because of that learning. Like there might be a more frequent, like, this one might need more frequent look at than every 5 years. That seems far. I will say 3. I don't know why. Well, no, 1 seems, like, to do it every year is, it comes up really fast, right? Like, and, like, but 3 would get you, I'm thinking about terms for school committees, it's every 4 years, so like, if you're doing it every, like, our contracts are 3 years, our other things are 3 years, like, that's, I didn't just pick it randomly, like, we tend to do things on 3-year
every
cycles.
3 years, okay.
Ken, is that, do you think that Is that
I
what
think
you're?
that's okay, I'm reading what our policy says, it says in an effort to keep written policies up to date, so that they may be used consistently as a basis for committee action and administrative decision-making, it shall be the policy of the committee to review its policies on a continuing basis.
Yeah, I didn't write that one.
And I'm not suggesting that we revise this policy yet.
Add to the list, Jen. No. Alright, are you okay with 3 years? Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
The policy on policy is from 2002.
So it wasn't here then.
No, I'm just saying, like, that might be a policy we might wanna look at pretty soon.
Well, that one's gonna get reviewed too, because that one is more than 5 years old,
Yeah.
so we will be changing that.
I think it's still.
Okay, how does everybody feel about this? We've put a lot
I
of,
really like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody
So
feels good
I have a
about
couple of
this?
questions, if it's okay. On the section on collaboration and feedback, letter C, concerns raised under this policy shall be reviewed promptly and addressed in accordance with district procedures. What do we mean by district procedures?
It should be like, just like any policy question, I wouldn't use the word procedures, but I feel like it would be just like anything else. If somebody had a question about a policy or a concern about a policy, it would go through the same chain of command. You know, like it would, if it's a building, it would go to the building principal first, then it would come to you all, then it would go to the school committee, then.
Yeah, district protocol or whatever,
Oh,
if it's
so
a
it
violation of the
processes,
policy, it's dealt with the
So is
business.
it like, are we referring to the communication chain there?
It's not communication chain, but appeal chain is almost what.
It will depend on
I
what the
think of
nature
it.
is too, like if someone's just got a problem with the policy in general, they'd come to the policy subcommittee and voice that. If someone has a problem with the way this was implemented with respect to their student, they would appeal that to building principal.
Or for teacher, they would go to the
superintendent, all the way up,
union.
right.
So is that verbiage right or wrong, Andrew?
District procedures, district protocols, I mean, I'm trying to think of a better word.
Rob, does that help give clarity? Like, is there anything we could write that could make that clearer? Or
Well, I
you-
mean,
or you
I
disagree,
guess like what we're, like, where I'm kind of a little confused on it is like letter C under collaboration and feedback, and then letter C under review and accountability. So C talks about concerns, and so,
Oh, yeah, I see.
and then C under review and accountability talks about violations will be addressed through restorative practices and professional learning. So are we talking about concerns, meaning like
I
Like-
think that one is is if someone has a concern with the policy itself, right? So I think, because this
Okay.
section is collaboration and feedback, so you're really looking at the policy, the development of the policy, the implementation of the policy. So if somebody if there was a student, teacher, or parent that had concerns with this policy, right, they can bring it forth to their child's
Okay.
school, they can bring it to us, we would then bring it to the policy committee to review.
okay,
So raised about this policy?
yeah,
About
I would
this
say that. I would
policy,
say
yeah.
concerns raised about this policy rather than under this policy, only because under this policy makes me think it's gonna be something that applies to the policy as opposed to being the policy itself.
And I'm not opposed to this, I'm just saying, this is the only policy that we have that says, if you don't like this policy, come talk to us. Is that opening a, what's the word I'm looking for, Pandora's box for every single policy that we have? Not that people shouldn't complain if they have a policy, but then, is this something that we should be putting in
I al-
every policy?
And I also don't know about, like, I mean, people can raise concerns about any policy really, through a number of different ways.
Correct.
You know, I mean, they can, obviously email school committee, they can come to a meeting and give
Right.
comments, they can do so under a number of ways. I just,
Like, I get where you're going with this, hearing what this is intended to do, but I question why we are saying specifically, if you have a concern with this policy, putting it in the policy, because we don't say that about any other
I
policy.
think this is just a new policy we're writing, so when I was coming up with that section, I put that in there. I mean, there was nothing specific to this policy, it was just, this is a new policy that we were writing, and.
We've had
under the
other new
section of
policies that
Yeah,
we've
so let's get rid of it.
that just, so I mean, it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter to me if it's in there or not in
I
there.
think you just get rid
I
of it.
think we
So-
should get rid of it, yeah.
okay, sorry, I was gonna add another thing real here. So under review and accountability, I point out the C there, A, building principals shall review proposed events, celebrations, and displays for alignment with this policy. B, concerns regarding potential cultural appropriation or cultural insensitivity may be reported to the building principal. See, violations of the policy will be addressed through restorative practices and professional learning. I just want to point out, and again, I want to say that I agree with where we're going here in terms of the direction we're trying to take and the values we're expressing in the policy. I also agree with the way the policy has been written. I think it's written in a really as effective a way as possible. I really think it's been done very well. I am really concerned, however, because we've already surfaced some pretty ambiguous scenarios that really, I think, speak to the kind of education that we want to provide, the kind of instruction our teachers want to provide, that are very valuable, I think we all agree, very valuable to the students' learning, but that also could raise potential moments of anxiety with teachers based on the fact that this policy is in place, which is a concern. I also want to call attention to the fact that this language puts all of the onus on the building principal to be the arbiter of these types of situations. That's a significant concern, I think, to put all of that onus on that individual when we're talking about, I think we'd all acknowledge, a very, in many cases, ambiguous and difficult scenario to make a decision on, to determine a violation, if you will.
So we can say some of this, I think A should be the responsibility of the building principal, because it's happening in their building, if there's an event happening or celebration, whatever might be happening from the classroom teachers should be sharing that with their building principal if they're going to be doing something, and the principal okaying it. Maybe the next one, like where there's concerns, like that is in cooperation with us regarding that, right? So it's not just the building principal making that determination if it's cultural appropriation or culturally insensitive, that is something that they would collaborate with district administration on. Could be, either from your office, my office, in supporting them on making that decision.
I think the goal of what we're trying to say here is, in my mind, I'm reading it as like the building principals, and I don't think it's just building principals, it could happen at a bigger level, but like in the example of things that are happening at the schools, like their support in helping make these decisions. That's what I'm reading through the lines, right? Of like your building principals can review and make sure that support the alignment in the policy, but then also that I think the goal is that we're trying to say, like, if something does happen, like the first level will be like restorative practices and like learning. Like the goal of this policy is not to get people in trouble. The goal of this policy is to help people learn and understand when this is good, right? And how to do it well. What if we did something like this?
I guess I hear you. I guess a little bit of where I'm concerned is just the word violations.
Yeah, I just
you know what I
changed
mean?
it
Because
for you.
violations makes it kind of makes the inference that there is a determination made by a person.
I mean, there could be, just like.
So
Yeah.
why don't we look at the
but-
rewording of that for that section?
So I wrote, when concerns arise, it shall be addressed through restorative practices, reflection, and professional learning that strengthen cultural understanding and support a respectful, inclusive environment. That's a very fluffy, nice way to say it.
It's a good point, though. I mean, I think the verbiage is now that's a little bit more open. I think the concern is valid in that, if a parent heard that I was, all they heard was that their child was walking around with a sari during art class today, and they all of a sudden, freaked out, not knowing what actually happened in class, and immediately went to administration to complain, and then a school committee member, I'm just saying, heard about it, and then is like, what the heck is going on at your school? So I totally understand. It is, I think, maybe when this policy is revealed, there could be a broader conversation, maybe at the administration level about, what that looks like and how not to immediately jump to conclusions just because somebody hears something that may not be exactly the way it was planned on being.
Is there a way, once again, not sure if this is policy or procedure, but is there a way to annotate like proper chain or channels, chain of command, that if there is a concern that it is going, like this is the proper channel to route your concerns through, so that we're not doing the telephone game of somebody heard this and somebody heard this, and then all of a sudden something that could have been contained by a conversation between two people now becomes an issue with everybody in the community. But I don't know if that's more of a procedure piece, and the policy piece is like that there is a proper chain to to address your concerns, and.
We have a chain of command
Yeah.
policy and like an appeal, there is a
But,
policy.
but is there a way to maybe reference
We could
that in
reference that
here so that,
policy in here,
so that
yeah.
if people are going that other way, then that covers
We
us.
most recently did it, I feel like, in one of the transportation ones.
We did,
Like we wrote language on like how to appeal
if you
or
have,
whatnot.
Um,
So I do agree being consistent is good.
which one was that, was it the, Rob, does that, are you more comfortable with the way it's in right now?
Yeah, I
That
mean,
feels like a-
it's, I think it's a little more general. Another question I have, just going back to the curriculum piece. Right, so the language under curriculum, number 3, says curriculum shall integrate diverse cultural perspectives across all subject areas rather than limiting cultural topics to designated months, holidays, or isolated units. And the instruction shall acknowledge and highlight the historical and contemporary contributions of diverse racial, ethnic, and cultural groups in all academic disciplines, including but not limited to literature, science, history, music, and the arts. So kind of going back to the verbiage there in terms of this. So if there were to be concerns raised around inclusive curriculum, and I know that like we have curricular processes when it comes to review that has to do with going through curriculum selection and understanding culturally responsive and sustaining education. There's like a rubric that we go through for that. But if we were to, if there were to be expressive concerns around inclusive curriculum per this language, again, is that gonna be something that would fall to the building administrator to make a determination on, to issue a, I'm just asking, is that something that would fall to them? Or district level?
I don't think you should say building principals personally. I feel like there could be a word that says like the person in charge of that area, like
Administrative team?
yeah, like like I think we do this in like some other areas, like if it's something that's school based, you ask your principal, but if it's something that's more applicable for curriculum, they would talk to you, Rob, right? Or if it's something that's more whole district, they would talk to you, Ken, right? So I don't know if it's just saying like appropriate administrator or like something like that could just make it more general so that it goes to the right person, because like to your point, curriculum doesn't go to the building principals in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ken, I would defer to you on how.
What is it that we want, I guess, under section 3, what is it that we want to put there? Rob, what-
Under section,
right with the curriculum?
no, I'm not suggesting we put anything there. I'm kind of getting at if it's written in there, and we have a piece about concerns related to, application of the policy. Like are we, like what's the chain of command, I guess? So you know what I mean? What's the chain of command when it comes to something like that?
I'm gonna
So
add
do
something
we
under
want-
review and accountability that references the appeals, like the appeals process in general, which will pretty much cover everything. Like, cause that's our, like if you have a problem, you start here and then you go there, so
Mhm.
that'll cover a concern about anything in this policy. I'm gonna pull the language that we used
I
from
was
the
gonna
last.
say, can you just put it in there and that way everyone can see it?
I was trying to find what I thought it was.
What policy was it?
It was a transportation.
I know it's like-
I couldn't find it in
Hold on.
I
transportation.
thought it was the, oh, it was the sign, was it
I can
the-
see it. It's
I thought it was the transportation. But I couldn't find it in there.
are we, very respectfully, Chairperson, Policy Lady, are we landing the plane today, or are we rolling?
I'd like to land the plane today.
I could
I'm
tell that
looking-
you would like to, but I don't know if we're going to.
Yes, I know, Robert, are there any other concerns you have that are not chain of command related questions?
Also, I've been Googling that verbiage, and I'm gonna report back on where chain of command comes from, because I don't think it's a nice place.
It isn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to acknowledge that in a space of inclusivity.
Yeah,
I said it first, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, I have concerns,
I know,
again, just with how this plays out, you know what I mean, in practice, I have concerns about it. Again, I don't have concerns with the values that drive the policy, I don't have concerns with the, you know, the way the way the language is presented and things like that, but I think that I have concerns with how it plays out in the day-to-day operations of school, and how it potentially gives rise to doubt with teachers who have effective and highly valuable practices that will be questioned. I have concerns about that.
Noted. Anything specific?
Well, I think we've referenced a few here,
Yeah.
you know, and
So I guess, Rob, and this is from a very genuine place,
Mhm.
what would help to help that? Because I think like Ken did a really nice job trying to work through those fears. I think everything's subjective, right? Like I've heard you say it's really hard to make that judgment, but I think the way that I'm reading this is, say, worst case scenario, something happens, right? And somebody comes to the administration and says, hey, like we think it's in violation of this policy. I would imagine you would do a similar investigation, just like if it was bullying or just like if it was something else. And then if it is determined that you think that it was violated, like to me, it seems like the result would be restorative practices or education,
Mhm.
right? Like that's what we're saying, is
Right,
that
but
like the goal is.
I agree, but my concern would be that in the mind of a teacher, they might not even want to run the risk of that
Yeah.
happening, because the thought of most teachers is like, I don't wanna cause any extra anxiety on my students, and just the process of it being brought, and there being an investigation, there being some kind of a
Yeah.
procedure that happens there, I think would bring some doubt in the minds of teachers as to even do it in the first place, and I just worry that could cause a detrimental effect against what we're talking about, what we're trying to
Is the
accomplish.
solution writing violations of this policy will not be held to disciplinary action? Cause that's the alternative, right? And I'm not saying, I'm serious, that could be in here, if you wanted it to be in.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'd be fine with that, it's just the piece about the disciplinary action is, I don't know, I mean, I just worry that, like, you know, we have people in this room who are talking about this, I just worry about people who aren't in this room, people who aren't, you know, privy to all the details that we've gone through and things like that, you know, who may now hesitate, you
Yeah.
know.
I totally respect and honor that, and I do think Jen, I think if you all wanna, like we still want voice from the educators on this policy, like there's still opportunities to show it to them, we'll see it twice at the school committee at minimum, like there's still opportunities to edit it. Also, I worry about the students that don't have any mechanism to stand up when they see something that they feel really uncomfortable about too, you know, like I so honor teachers, you know that so much, but like I also think like if a policy doesn't exist, then students don't have a mechanism to even know that it's not okay, you know, or to even know of what is right. And I think this policy does a really nice job outlining what should be happening. And so, you know, there's that side of it too, right?
We
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
remove the reference to any disciplinary action, right? 'Cause that was something that was brought to us that people were concerned about. So we did remove that and put it in a more positive sense of if there is something, right? We let them know to reflect on it, what was it? Think, you know, look at professional development. I think also too, some of the examples that were brought up tonight, something that Mia mentioned, I think once you talk it through, you realize, okay, it's not cultural appropriation. And I think if teachers understand that, if there's something in question, and they question, should I still instruct in this manner or bring this topic forward or, you know, teach this culture or use these artifacts or whatever it may be, once you talk through what it is and it, you know, when you're educating students about it and there's reasons there to educate them, we learn, okay, you're doing the right thing. You are being respectful in what you're teaching. You're trying to teach others of that culture. And I think, you know, there needs to be conversation there, too.
So I want to be respectful of people's time because it's 10 after 7. Rob, is there anything that we could change about this policy that would make you support it?
I'm not even saying I don't support it, I'm just
Okay.
raising concerns, you know what I
Okay.
mean? That's all I'm trying to do. Again, like I said, I support where we're going, like, I support the spirit behind this.
Do you think it's done enough to move to the next level? And again, the next level also can be you all going to the administration, the staff, even before the school committee has the first discussion. You all could review it again with them, and then if you had any concerns, you could bring it to the first read for the school committee to review, and if there's enough things, we could always send it back down, and if it's small things, we could do it at the school committee level. I think that's the question that Jen, is like, do we need to come back here one more time, or is it okay to move up and then continue to workshop it at that level?
At the school committee level? you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that,
Okay.
you know?
Somebody want to make a motion to move forward this draft to the school committee?
I'm gonna guess not, Rob. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make you laugh.
I'll make a motion to move this to school
Okay.
committee.
Can I get a second?
7.
Second? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, all right, awesome. Sorry we ran a little bit over tonight, but I appreciate you all working through it. I will make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Little extra glue.
Oh my god, I got glue all over the table. Where's Chad?
Your computer and our table are
Oh my
in line with